Good afternoon. May I have your attention? The June 14, 2019 work session of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen is now called to order. We have an agenda and we will follow the agenda as printed. The next item on our work session agenda is B, budget schedule. I will recognize our honorable budget chairperson and representative Ward 2, Ms. Alderman Sandra Sistrom.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
The second page in your agenda that y'all, or behind the agenda that y'all got today is just an outline of how we want to go through the budget process with dates for meeting certain points. The critical one is that we have to have it adopted by September 15th, and everything sort of works backwards from there. So I think this is more informational than needing any budget action, and we just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware. Our department heads, our aldermen were aware of the schedule that we do working under.
Are there any questions in regard from board members as to any comments made by Alderman Sistrom?
And we will have full budget meetings as we go along. So.
Well, very good. Item C is health insurance performance report and preliminary budget projection. I'm going to recognize the alderman from 2 again. The mayor mentioned that she had a couple items, and I'm going to be obedient and recognize her for that. Thank you.
Thank you again, Vice Mayor.
You're so welcome.
We have representatives with us today from McGriff, who is our insurance consultant, Peggy Yates and Mickey Watkins. Peggy Yates and Mickey Watkins. As y'all know, last year we made some pretty significant changes to our insurance plan, and they are here today to let us know how that's worked out from a budget perspective and from a usage perspective by our employees. They're here to answer any questions, any concerns, to address those, and we're at that point where we are going to start to look at what we want next year's health insurance plan to look like, and so they're going to talk to us a bit about budget projections, what that would look like if we made this change or that change or no change, and so I'm going to turn it over to Peggy and Mickey. And y'all do ask questions, please.
Yes, please. So I think primarily, we wanted this meeting to be about you getting to share with us your thoughts, any concerns that you might have, any questions that you have regarding the health plan. We know that this is a very large portion of the city's budget, especially with respect to taking care of your employees and your staff. And we do have some initial budget projection numbers based on the current plan performance and how the plan is running, along with us, as Ms. Sistrunk said, with ideas and thoughts on what can be done as far as plan design to mitigate any increases. But primarily, we want to know your thoughts and any strategies or thoughts you might have about what you want your health plan to look like moving forward. We realize this is not an immediate a year. We want this to not be a year by year, but more of a strategy of what does the city of Starkville want to present and provide to employees and their staff, so that we can help with some more long-term planning. Does anybody?
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
This $3,000 deductible,
Yes, sir.
what would it take to change that back from 3,000? I'm trying to figure out, I never figured out the reason, why did we go 3,000? If we're trying to accommodate and try to make our employees comfortable with our insurance plan, and majority of those employees, it take 10, 11 paychecks for them to even meet their deductible, paying $10 an hour. So this to get confused to me from the start, and it still confuses me now. If we trying to make things better for our employees, a $3,000 deductible, that's not gonna make it better for them. It's hurting them and their families. So I'm just so, what option can we use to, can we get to change the $3,000 deductible?
Okay.
Well, let me begin by addressing that, and Peggy can make her comments. One of the things that we discussed in preliminary meetings last year was the fact that a lot of large employers like the city of Starkville, they offer two plans for their employees, okay? So part of the rationale behind that was the fact that in the meetings leading up to that with the smaller group, I guess the insurance committee or the budget committee, was y'all to keep the plan where it was gonna require a significant increase on the city of Starkville. So what we were trying to do was mitigate the cost. I mean, and at the end of the day, insurance is just like the budget that you guys and ladies work with every single year. You know, you've got a certain amount of dollars that are coming in, and you've got claims that are gonna have to be paid. So the thought process was that as we looked at the data and we shared the data, and a very significant number of your employees were not even having any claims or filing any claims that went against their deductible, okay? As a matter of fact, I believe, off the top of my head, it was over 60% were not even filing claim to meet the $750 deductible. So the rationale is that what we were looking to do is find a number that would kind of balance the budget and would impact the fewest number of employees possible. And so we went with a plan that was $3,000. We continued to offer the $750 deductible option. The city paid 100% of the cost for the lower deductible, the $3,000 deductible. And if an employee wanted to buy up to the $750, they had the option to do that and pay that additional cost. So it was really, like I said, just a kind of a balancing act, if you will, of trying to find a way to keep the budget revenue neutral while also impacting as few people as possible. We knew going in, there's no doubt, and I understand your concern, there were going to be people who were negatively impacted by that and having to meet a higher deductible. We can certainly look at bringing that deductible down. We can look at eliminating that plan altogether, but that's going to require an increase in the budget for the city. So we can work around that however the board wants to.
We started the term off with a $500 deductible. A year and a half to the term, we left from a $500 deductible to $750. 3 months later, we went to a $3,000. How did that happen? What brought
The
that
de-
significant change?
the
Because we
deductible-
started the term up with $500 deductible, with the employees that had to pay nothing. Now, then, year and a half in there, we went from 750, am I right? From 500 to 750.
We went to
3 months
750.
later, from 750 to 3,000. What triggered that?
Is that the three large claimants?
Your claims experience. I mean, again, you've got a certain amount of revenue coming in. Your claims went up, and so that dictated that we were going to have to, request that the city increase their funding for the health plan. So we looked at an alternative to offset that increase because, basically the charge every year that we have been working with the city is we do not want to budget any more for health insurance if we don't have to. As Peggy said, we know it's a big budget item for the city. So we started looking at benefit designs that would basically make the transaction revenue neutral and prevent the city from having to increase their contribution. Because truthfully, y'all are one of the few employers left out there, and I'm including municipalities in this, and because I work with several municipalities, that still pay 100% of the cost for your employees' coverage, okay? The municipalities I work with, it's not that they charge a lot, because we understand that your employees don't make a lot of money, they're not highly compensated. But even the other municipalities I work with, they're charging maybe $10 a pay period or $20 a pay period to help offset the cost to the city. So we can look at any number of variables in there, but that was what our objective was going into the last renewal cycle, last October, was to try to make things revenue neutral for the city.
Alderman Carver.
I guess I understand what your question was, and we do have a plethora we have pay grades of all types and natures. So is there anything ever offered that you've seen in the insurance world where, say, a gentleman, if they're making under 50,000 versus over 50, they're a $750 deductible versus a 3,000. It's different on different families. So 3,000 is a lot to some, and it's not so much to others. So have you ever seen that matrix?
Well, we've seen a matrix, and we see it all the time, where an employer will charge somebody, using your example of, say, if they make $50,000,
Right.
they will make them pay some or more of the premium, and maybe they don't require that, the people making under $50,000 contribute anything toward it.
That's your $10.
It's not yes, I would make the argument they probably need to be paying a little more if they're making over that level, but yes, for the sake of discussion. I have not seen anything where they say people making, say, under 50,000 get the $750 deductible, and over 50,000. I've never seen that, but in terms of how the premiums are collected, that's the more likely scenario.
Well, from a premium collection standpoint, you use the number $10. $10, is that an actual figure, or is it more than that? As far as you're saying, we were one of the few municipalities that didn't collect that.
Right.
What is an average municipalities collect?
Typically, it's $10 to $20, and truthfully,
Per pay period or pay month, per month?
per pay period. Truthfully, it's not as much to me, I think it's more of a psychological thing. I think the message that needs to be relayed through that, say if you wanted to go that direction, is this has become a costly benefit. We're still paying, and you are paying, a tremendous amount. And when we have met with employees in the past, we have tried to relay to them that between the health insurance, the dental insurance, and the life insurance that the city pays for, that is a very hefty investment. You may only make whatever you make, but that's a $6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000 investment per employee that the city is making on their employees, and they're not paying taxes on it. Essentially, it's a tax-free benefit. So it's really to make them aware of the fact that, hey, costs are going up. We just need a little cost sharing in here. It's not gonna make a dent in your budget. I'll be real candid about it, but they need to understand that there's an ownership stake in this as well. It's like any other transaction you have. If you want something, and you want something good, you're gonna have to, you're gonna have to pay for it, so.
And yeah, we have workers, and I've talked to several workers that understand they don't make as much maybe in the public sector as they do in the private sector, but the benefit for working in the public sector is the health and the life, and they understand that. So I would want to continue to provide that as long as we can. You're saying we're one of the few municipalities that does, and I wouldn't want to alter that part of it right now. The second thing I noticed is this is page 6, net medical claims down 30%. Is that just those claimants not having those large claims this year? I was trying to look for trends right here, and I see net medical claims are down 30%. However, right below it, net pharmacy claims are up 59%. What is that, a cancer?
And we've got even worse news there, but I mean, yes, you can see that at the end of the day, and we haven't quite gotten to this yet, but I mean, you guys are under budget, even though just barely so far through the end of May.
At the end of the day.
Through the end of May.
Yes, I mean, let's not, I mean, we've got June, July, August, and September to go.
Right.
So we've still got 4 months to go. But we are seeing some trends in the prescription drug field area. And unfortunately, we just became aware of a situation for an employer dependent that is about to be, has already received one and will be receiving additional prescriptions, and that prescription is in the ballpark of $20,000 a month.
Is cancerous in nature, or is this?
That is not.
This is not.
It is not. It
This
is more
is
of a
not.
chronic condition, so it's not. The top drug there, the Nerlinx, the cancer drug, that is I believe a 12-month therapy, and we are, I believe, on the tail end of it from the best we can tell.
Yes, ma'am.
The new drug that has appeared on the utilization that is not yet in the top 3 but will be within the next 2 months is treating more of a chronic condition. So it is not, there's no limitation on how long that drug could be used. It could be
Indefinite?
ongoing.
I mean, is it
It could be
like-
indefinitely.
And let me, if you don't mind, and it's good to get to talk with y'all in a more informal session like this. One of the things that we've talked with the mayor and with Alderman Sistrunk about is the fact that
Don't forget NAV.
and I'm sorry, and now and Lisa, I apologize to y'all. One of the things that we have talked about with the group is the fact that, Blue Cross is a good company. Blue Cross has a very good network. Blue Cross pays their claims, and they pay them very, very timely. Blue Cross, to some extent, is very, they like to control the whole process. There are other carriers out there that we would like to at least, talk to the board about or present to the board that will allow us to carve out prescription drugs and look for a better deal on the prescription drug piece, because that is becoming an increasingly larger amount of your claim dollars. I mean, let's face it, to Peggy's, at an absolute minimum, we've got one individual next year that probably at a minimum will have $120,000 in claims and could potentially have $240,000 in claims if they stay just on
Just for
one
that
drug.
one medication.
Okay, that one medication. So I just had a conference call yesterday with a vendor that may have some solutions on the prescription drug piece to help bring the cost down. And so that's one of the reasons why we wanted to talk with y'all in a more informal setting is, are you open to other ideas like that? I mean, this is not to put Blue Cross down, but it is to say that we've been successful in working with other clients, with other carriers, where we could carve out certain pieces that help reduce the cost, because 30% of your claims are gonna be, or thereabouts are gonna be for prescription drugs, and if we could save 40% on that, that's, on 30% of your spend, that's a 12% overall savings. So, that's the kind of things that we're looking for to try and assist y'all and bring your claims down, and again, keep you revenue neutral on your budget.
And not to put too fine a point on it, but this ultimately would be a decision about whether or not we want to continue with Blue Cross as our third-party administrator, because they will not break apart pharmacy and let us deal with somebody else as the pharmacy administrator.
Correct.
That
So
is
it's an
correct.
all or nothing thing with
That is
Blue
correct.
Cross.
That is correct.
we looked at that a little bit last year and decided that we were gonna continue with Blue Cross. We found that based on last year's data, there wasn't a lot of disruption going to a different carrier, but there also wasn't, at that point in time, a projection of a big cost differential with Blue Cross versus some other carrier. So I just wanna be sure people understand that when we talk about pharmacy cost management,
Right.
we're talking about
Changing.
changing
Correct.
from the third-party administrator from Blue
Correct.
Cross to someone else.
Like United Healthcare or something like that, is it?
Well, yeah, we would probably use UMR, which uses the United Healthcare Network. UMR is a third-party administrator that is owned by United Healthcare. We can probably get cheaper fees and administrative fees and things.
Just from personal experience, way back, I've been down that United Healthcare road, and it depends on really where you live. If you're like in the Hattiesburg area, you got HMO Town, all the doctors in it, but if you get Jackson, or maybe, I'm not sure, probably Starkville as well, yeah, it may be cheaper, but you got one doctor you can go to. And if I would've been going somewhere 20 years, I wanna keep going to work, you know what I'm saying?
No, I totally
So
understand.
We gotta look at the whole big picture, and I see where Alderman was talking about, as far as the deductibles, we got a $10, $12 hour employee. And I get it that most of them aren't hitting that deductible, but one or two of them hit it one time, and that's catastrophic.
Sure.
I get that. I also get that we control this, we can do whatever we want to with it. But if it's gonna cost us an extra $100,000 a year, we gotta figure out we're gonna pull that from that street, or we just, we can do whatever we want to, but we gotta be mindful that it's gonna
I mean,
cost
that,
us.
Alderman Little, you've hit on a perfect, I mean, y'all control the process, okay? We come in here, we make recommendations, and there's nothing for us to gain one way or the other by making these. We just know that actuarially, we're projected your claims, are gonna be higher, lower, whatever they may be, and we suggest where you put. So if you wanna go back, you wanna do away with the 3,000, lower that's fine. There's just a cost associated with it, so.
You gotta spend the numbers and say.
That's right, you gotta
Correct.
find where you're gonna
I
get
think
that
it
money.
was like 60,000, it was gonna cost us more if we stayed with the old plan, I remember, I may be off, but I think it was about 60,000, it was gonna save us going with this new plan, deductible,
Right.
co-values.
Right, right.
It continues to go up, and we were just trying to put a ceiling on it and reduce that, contain the cost right the last year, and we just gotta decide what we wanna do, and this is something we're gonna, if we wanna get a middle ground on the deductibles, and you guys spin the numbers and say, this is, if you wanna do that, it's gonna cost you X more.
Right.
And
Right.
We're in that budget time, and now's the crunch, if we're gonna do anything, now's the time, but we're gonna have to make that decision and approve.
And that's one of the reasons why we asked Alderman Sistrunk if she could arrange for us to be here, because I know y'all don't want to make this a last minute decision on this, so we want to get this out in front of you very early so that y'all can make a well thought out decision for your employees.
All of them.
To go back to what David said, I had a lot of dealing with United Healthcare, and for the service that they give, it doesn't compare to the service that we get from Blue Cross Blue Shield. So that's one, I would make a decision not to go back to them. But in the other vendors that you talking about, do their service compare with paying their bills on time and taking care of their claims on time, like United Healthcare, the vendors that you are talking about?
Well, the vendors that I am talking about would strictly be, you'd continue to use Blue Cross as your third-party administrator. It would really, in effect, it would kind of be a bolt-on, if you will, to your Blue Cross coverage. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here, but essentially what we would do is if we, like, for example, this specialty drug that we just mentioned, if this vendor could get a different price, okay, that would not go through the Blue Cross claim system. We would handle that transaction outside the Blue Cross claim system. You guys would get a bill from them. You'd have to set up, or you'd have to, basically pay them, but it would be less than what you're paying Blue Cross. So it is a savings to the city, okay? But it is kind of an outside the box transaction, but it does allow you to continue to access your Blue Cross network, your Blue Cross doctors, all of that. So no difference there.
Okay, David, you said about $60,000. You probably said a different
I think
product.
last year.
About $60,000.
That's what we projected, yes, sir, and it's.
We messed that up. we mess that much money up in the city, we throw that much away. So that
Well-
should outweigh that, because we missed that much money now. So I don't, if that was the case, I don't see why did we go to the $3,000 deductible, because it seems like every time the employee get a pay increase, the insurance goes up. But how would they ever get ahead? How would they ever stand on a loan, and every time they get an increase, the insurance goes up? That's what we see. And that's what I have always seen, because I worked for Sale Lee for 34 and a half years. Every time the employee got a raise, insurance goes up.
Right.
And it gets so far that it just, and like now, it just got too far for you.
And we're very, I mean, I work with other municipalities, I'm very cognizant of what you're talking about. It's just that it is a very delicate balance between, because look, every municipality that I work with is the same, there's just never extra money to, to invest in the health plan. I totally get it. We don't wanna go up on the premiums for our employees, totally get it. We don't wanna go up on the deductibles, I totally understand. But, okay, then let's find money somewhere else to offset that for your employees, cause that's the only option. So,
I like that hybrid, I'm sorry.
No, I'll call back to recognition, I'm sorry, that's one.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, coming into the budget timeline, I would request, even though this is not you specifically saying we have the authority, and I understand that, I would want to see some strong recommendations. We've got an insurance guy, a CPA, an HR, we've got the people here that can come up with I'm basically looking for a page or two that, different scenarios. I guess that's not an odd, that's I'm gonna ask that question about pre-existing conditions. That one claimant that y'all are saying possibly up to 240,000 indefinitely, I wanna see those different scenarios, pulling that vendor out, what you're saying, I mean, just whatever, I would like to see 2 or 3 different scenarios and what is our best option, and I guess what would you think by mid-July, have this?
Let me go ahead and inject. I like that hybrid idea. We've got 3 client insurers with very high prescriptions. Trying to backdoor that, and we can save that, I think we would definitely look further into that. Why don't we run some sort of numbers with like the 750, the 1,500, and the 3,000 that we have? And just say, okay, well, this is what you want, this is what's gonna cost you, this, and also do it where if somebody wanted to do the buy down, kinda like they're doing now.
Mhm.
And just see where it takes us, and if it's the, if it's 100,000 or 75 or whatever it may be, just see, and will the board, and,
Right.
willing to pay it for the smaller deductibles.
I was gonna say maybe too, and talk with some employees, and I will too, but the $1,500 deductible, if they'd be willing to buy it, what you call them, $10 a month, whatever is best on an employee, because if they had a catastrophic loss, they would understand, and what kind of cost savings is that, I don't know.
Okay.
And I'd like to say that one thing that we did do, even though we increased the deductible, we kept the out-of-pocket cap at the same number, so everybody knew, people who pay attention to their insurance would know that their ultimate exposure was $7,500.
Right.
That, it either happens as you progress along in that disease, or it happens all at once with a deductible, but that's your out-of-pocket cap, each year. The other thing I'd like to say was, early on, you mentioned that, we were below budget right now in terms of this, but, and there was a pretty big but hanging out there. There are some.
It's in all caps with this new prescription coming on, yes.
There's some pending
Well, there's a
claims.
claim also that was pended.
There's a $280-some thousand pending claim that's not in the numbers that they have today. And we're a small group, and one claim, 2 claims, large claims like that, just throw our projections to the wind, and we're responsible for
The first
paying.
125.
Yeah, and
For sure.
And then this
And then
trickles on out through the reinsurance. And keep in mind, as we're talking about these numbers and we're talking about people, and it's easy sometimes for the numbers to just be numbers and us to lose track of the people component of it, and we don't wanna do that. But this health insurance accounts for about 5% of our general fund budget. It's almost $1 million a year that we spend for health insurance. 80% of our employees, based on that sheet that you had up there earlier,
Mhm.
80%
I'll
of
go
our
back to
employees, just
that.
under 80% of our employees have not had one penny applied to their deductible. 85, 86% of them haven't met that $750 deductible. So it impacts a handful of people in a very serious way, but it does not impact, it impacts our other employees in other ways, because if we spend another $100,000 on health insurance, that's money that could have potentially been used for a raise.
Just realized my page
or
numbers were off. It's their
streets,
second
or
page 6.
another policeman,
Yeah,
or,
absolutely.
and those are hard things to balance, and I applaud y'all for, looking for ways to get the insurance piece of it down so that it provides the best benefit to our employees, but frees up money to do things that are more meaningful to our employees.
And if I could piggyback just off of what Alderman Sistrunk said, the other components that we did not change were the office visit copay or the prescription drug copays. Those are the benefits that the vast majority of your employees are using every
Actually, we did
year.
make slight changes. We
Oh,
did.
slight changes?
Yes,
I
we did.
apologize.
Yes, we did.
Okay, I'm sorry, I
40
take that back.
40 to 50.
But it was minimal, but it did go up. I apologize, I'm sorry.
The biggest change with the $3,000 deductible plan was the category 4, the specialty drug copay of $250 from $100. And Nav and I were discussing this previously, and I did get some information from Blue Cross on the utilization within that category. And you have had, I believe it was 76 prescriptions filled on that plan in that category, with an average out of pocket for the employee at around $80, because it's the cost of the drug up to that $250 copay. So in other words, most of your employees are not paying $250 for that tier, for that highest cost drug.
So we have a bit of history here now of how we got here. We see where we've impacted some people pretty significantly. Not all of our employees, not even the majority or super majority of our employees, but we have impacted a handful of our employees significantly, and that's meaningful. We've had some conversations, y'all have talked with Nav and Lisa, and one of the things you came to today, I think, was to be able to talk about other plan designs and what that would look like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in conjunction with that, get input today, go back, get the June experience, refine that, come back to us with a
Correct.
firmer recommendation.
Correct. So, the next to the last page in your presentations includes this spreadsheet that I have pulled up here, and I don't expect you to be able to see it from the screen at all. So our financial analytics team, our underwriters, they review your claims over a 3-year time period, and then they weight that against medical trend and pharmacy trend to predict what your claims are going to be moving forward. And then they come up with a rate that corresponds with that. So with that said, the way your claims are running right now through the end of May, and as we've already discussed, we know we already have a few other things that are hitting that are going to affect these numbers. If you were to not make any plan design changes, if you were to maintain your plans as they are today, the recommended budget increase would be about 9%.
And that's just under $100,000.
So one of the things that we ask our underwriters to do was to give us a couple of options for, what would the plan design need to look like if we were to cut that budget increase in half, and then what would it look like if we were to completely neutralize that budget increase and get you to a flat renewal.
Can I go back and ask?
Yes, ma'am.
So 9% making absolutely no changes with a $3,000 deductible. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that if we went to a $1,500 deductible, 9%
Yes, ma'am.
just goes up.
Yes, ma'am.
So where we're looking at just under 100,000 for the general fund, just the general fund, that number would escalate, and it's gonna go up anyway, probably based on our June claims history.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So to get the renewal to a 5% budget increase, that's the plan design that we have illustrated. It takes the enhanced plan to $1,000 deductible. So it does increase that from $750 to $1,000. And then on the base plan, it increases the deductible from $3,000 to $4,000. Now, we already know from the conversations that we've just had today that, you know, that's probably not a direction the city would like to take if you can avoid it, at all possible. I'll be honest, I didn't even add it to the presentation because when I saw the plan design changes that would be required to get you to a net budget increase, I knew without a doubt that it would not be something that would be palatable to the city. It increased the base plan to a $5,000 deductible.
To keep it budget neutral.
And $1,200 on the
Based on-
enhanced
based
plan.
on May experience.
Based on experience through May.
Are there any further questions or comments?
Yeah, good news?
State's going to Omaha.
And we'll win
That's
the
right.
national championship?
That's right.
Any extra revenue to help pay for the health plan, maybe. Again, we really appreciate the partnership that we have with the city. And we understand this is your plan, and as it was stated earlier, it's your plan to do what you want with it. We are just here to help you figure out what those numbers are gonna have to be able to do what you wanna do.
Well, thank you very much. We certainly recognize the budget chair.
I'd like to wrap up and be sure
Certainly,
we
go
give
ahead.
them clean.
Great, wonderful.
Clean direction, yes, I
Sure.
appreciate that.
And what I think I was hearing, and I'm not gonna remember it all, but what I think I was hearing was, if possible, we'd like that deductible to come down.
Okay,
We are willing to look at, changing our pharmacy vendors so that we can.
If we
take
can
it-
do
if-
some.
If it benefits us from a cost perspective.
okay,
But that we wanna keep Blue Cross as our third-party administrator.
Okay.
And then, there was one more thing, that we would entertain the possibility of a premium charge to, our paid employees.
I'm okay with that, I mean.
Are you okay with a
Threshold is-
minimal?
I'd set a threshold, but
I don't know, I just wanna see what kind of impact it's gonna have.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
it's $10 a check, $20 an employee, I don't know, if it's negligible.
I mean, based on your enrollment now, it's going $30,000 to maybe $40,000 max additional revenue. So
Which is-
that's
it's
less
not-
for the city.
It's not enough.
Can I ask you if you would consider this option? I mean, I'm just throwing this out as maybe a fourth option to what Alderman Sistrunk said. Instead of offering the two plans, so you've got the $750 and the $3,000, would you consider just going back to one plan at, say, maybe $1,500 on the deductible side?
what's the benefit?
Okay. We already see a no from the vice mayor, so.
Well,
Do you feel that that's
let
too
me-
much?
Let me say this.
Yeah.
And I was not attorney. We had a talk with the meeting. I didn't want to say, but just as a one deductible, I think I need to say something. But I think we need to look at all options. I think the two deduction offer at least a couple of choices to our employees as opposed to one choice. So I like the multiplicity of choices. But as to everything that's been said today, including the very valuable information from our budget chair and all other colleagues, I think once we get the totality of the information back from this session today, and whenever it's presented by the budget chair, then we can consider it and do whatever the majority of the board and the mayor thinks is best in the city. But
Right.
just want to make the comment, it's two, if it's okay, two choices.
Well,
Okay.
and I too like the two-tier plan, I do, our employees have seen it, they know what it looks like now.
Okay.
So I'm good with keeping.
How many of our
the two
employees
tiers.
are on the enhanced,
Not that many.
About 70.
out of 300?
And
You got 70 on the enhanced and 239 on the high
So
deductible.
about
And-
300 total plan.
Correct.
I was gonna say, and let me point out that a lot of the.
Oh, that's members, okay.
Yes, that, a lot of the, participants in that $750 deductible plan are your retirees, who are paying the full premium.
And that is another, thing that we can consider. I'm just saying, these are things we can consider. I'm not saying let's do any of this, but we don't have to extend insurance to retirees if we adopt that policy on a go-forward basis. Is that correct?
I have moved most of the municipalities that I work with to, off of that. They grandfathered in the people that were on there, obviously. But they're with, you know, the ACA out there, it used to be an issue because obviously the older you are, the less options you had. And back when carriers could underwrite, it presented a problem for a lot of 60 and 62-year-olds. They couldn't pass underwriting. Under the ACA, underwriting has gone away, so carriers have to accept people now. They can't turn them down, whether they're the sickest person on the face of the planet. So there are options out there for retirees now that they did not have in the past. And
let's face it, a lot of these costs do come with those of us that are aging, so.
Well, back to employees though, how many are on the enhanced, y'all know?
So we have a total of 70 participants enrolled in the $750 deductible plan.
some of them,
hang
it's a
on.
total of 7, it's 58 employees, 5 have their, or 12 have their dependents covered. So it's a total of 70 employees and some of them have to.
I can get that number for you.
Because I mean, if
Yes.
it's only 5 or 10 or 15 active employees that are enhanced, it's really not an issue whether we have that too. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily, if 90% or 95% of our employees are not gonna choose it, not to just look at what our best rate would be with a $1,500 or $1,000 deductible or something like that. You said 1,500, I think, just split the difference or
That's a
something.
number that's been thrown around a lot, so.
What are are other municipalities using? Do they have a split tier or enhanced plan, base plan like we have, or most of them just go on one?
I'll speak for the ones that I work with. They have, most of them have a single plan.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. They have a single plan, and I will tell you that one varying, not quite as big as y'all, but very similar in size to y'all, we were going through the same thing. They went from a $750 deductible, and they doubled it this past October when they renewed to $1,500,
Keep
and just
relative,
offering that one plan.
Premium neutral, premium level. How many of your municipalities have left Blue Cross as their primary carrier because of?
None.
None, okay.
And these additional pharmacy things that I'm talking about, these bolt-ons, we've just been introduced to them in the last few months, so I'm still doing a little vetting on that.
We're doing some vetting before we wanna say.
Before we bring it to y'all, so.
So Blue Cross is our self-funded plan administrator. You can bring another health carrier in under this, and if we chose to.
If you chose to, we could just, for lack of a better way of putting it, we'd just bolt it on, we'd attach it. You know, most of your prescriptions would still run through Blue Cross.
Right.
But on some of these high-cost prescriptions, we could potentially farm them out and save the city some money there.
Would that be your recommendation that we look at that?
If
Well,
we can-
after we finish
After we
our
vet
vetting
those.
process, yes, sir, it could be.
Ms. Sistrom, how much is our budget gonna be up this year?
In terms of revenue,
General fund revenue?
I would say, was not prepared to answer that
But
question.
just based on what, just rough ballpark.
Traditionally, you're talking about a 1 to 2%, but we are looking at, fully implementing the PERS increase. We've got our health insurance issues to deal with, we're buying a fire truck, we have, a TIF bond that's coming online. I would not,
In your fire truck and your TIF, they're gonna be compensated for by the taxes that are set aside, or the contract set aside for those.
The TIF taxes are already accounted for in that 1 to 2% increase that I'm talking about. The fire truck, that is ours to buy, and, so I would not be spending any extra money real fast. We are working on those kind of projections, but,
And we pay for health insurance out of general fund, correct?
with general fund, and then the enterprise funds also participate for their employees.
If we stay with this current plan, and we've increased by, what, $80,000, you said just under $100,000. What percentage of our budget is it? That's what, that's about 2%, more than 2%?
It's about, health insurance is about 5% of our general fund cost.
But that increase-
Our personnel, total personnel costs are, around 11 million. That includes salaries and benefits in the general fund, out of a little over $20 million budget. Of that $11 million, $1 million is health insurance, $1.3 million is PERS. PERS is going up, health insurance is going up.
Yeah, that's a constant thing, that's,
Are there any additional questions from the board members? If not, we certainly want to thank both of you for your presence and for this wealth of information. And the mayor and budget chair will certainly stay in touch with you.
Thank you
for
so
being
much.
here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on our
I would give those
agenda-
participant
I'm
counts to
sorry.
you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Lisa wants extra little bits, please.
In case anybody.
Oh, sorry, I turned your soccer back on.
All right, the next item on our agenda is discussion of the agenda. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is discussion of the agenda items for the June 18, 2019 recess meeting of the mayor and board of aldermen for the city of Starkville. So we will turn to the agenda for the meeting. I'm going to go through it in this manner. As to Roman numeral number 4, does anyone have any question about the 2 items marked for consent? The next business item, and you feel free to stop me anytime, on page 2 under the mayor's business. Is there any discussion or comments on either of those items A through C?
B and C, is that the topography study, is that what we're going to put those on consent? They've got, that's something that's got to be done.
Attorney about to say something. We about to say something, so you looked over?
The surveys for the parks improvements, yes, sir.
Okay.
I offer consent, unless anyone's got an issue with that, they've got to do it.
There seems to be no objection. Clerk, will you put those items of B and C on the mayor's business on consent, please?
Yes.
Next item on page 3, or then a question on the board business for either those items A through C, Roman numeral 10.
Did that get cleared up as far as who's going to move the house and so forth?
Vice Mayor?
Yes, sir, you may be recognized. Yes, sir.
Where we left off on that board, you remember, is we were gonna ask the school board for permission to have our firemen burn that house, and they have provided that permission. And so Chief Yarborough is working with the school district to get an asbestos clearance to burn the house, but that's in the process.
So you're offering that to go on consent? Okay. Does anyone have an objection to item 8 on the board business being on consent?
And Vice Mayor, we may just need to call for that public hearing again, just to cover our bases.
Well, we'll do that. We'll leave it off. Thank you, attorney. Thank you. Okay, we'll move down to department business under planning.
Sorry, Vice Mayor, I'm skipping around.
I'm sorry.
Item
this is
Item B under board business, is that just dotting i's, crossing t's for the TIF arrangement that we have with Academy Sports?
It is, and if y'all will just give me about 5 sentences, I'll pull this to the front of everybody's mind, because it dates back to 2016. In 2016, the first meeting in July, the city approved the resolution of intent for these TIF bonds for the Academy Sports project, $1.5 million in TIF bonds. In the second meeting in July in 2016, the city held the public hearing that's required under the TIF plan, and after that public hearing, it approved the TIF plan and the resolution authorizing the issuance of these bonds. In August of 2016, it entered into a development and reimbursement agreement with the developer to pay back the developer for infrastructure improvements based on the proceeds of the TIF bonds. And the developer has now sent in a certificate to the city showing that he's met his certain benchmarks to facilitate the TIF process. So to answer your question, this interlocal agreement is the procedural and mechanical document that allows the city to continue in the TIF process with the county and spells out the rights and duties and obligations between the city and county on the TIF bonds.
Is that consent worthy, or do y'all want to talk about it at the table?
What are the benchmarks for the Academy Sports bond?
Yeah,
Employment
that's right. No, it's taxes, that they're generating enough taxes to where.
to meet the debt service on the bond?
That's correct.
Alderman Sistrunk, I mean, let's leave it off. It'll-
Okay,
I don't have
that's
any
fine.
discussion table, just
fine.
philosophical, yeah, but
Okay.
we're fine.
That's fine.
Yes, ma'am. Any other question on the board business? Roman numeral 10, Department Business Planning. Any questions under planning, A, B, and C?
Well, not so much, just in light of the shooting this week in the park, I'm getting a lot of calls, from a security standpoint, crowd control. And I really, I walked in a few minutes late, but, I would like to have a police presence more or less at anything we do. Large crowds congregating, so even with the Sunday Fun Day, I mean, it's good PR for that. I wish that the police department had a representative here, and I know the park does, but, they necessarily don't have to stay in their car, they can be out and, well, yeah, but I know the other night, already in Little League afterwards, I mean, it's kinda good PR to have at least an officer there, and, you know, just like the cameras that we've installed, and they act as a deterrent, so does having an officer on the scene, so you're gonna see me push in the next few months to just at least, and I wish the police chief was here or someone, but, you know, like Sunday Fun Day, y'all think that Nashville needs to have some type of police presence there, or?
I would defer to the mayor and the police chief having that discussion,
I wish I
and
were here.
as long as they had that discussion and made
Yeah.
an informed decision about how much or if they need a presence.
Yeah, and you know, it depends on the overtime constraints and, did you want to say something, Mr. Logan?
Yes, sir, if I may.
Yes, sir, you may be
All right,
recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Yes,
Ford.
sir. Yes, sir.
I can speak to this just from my personal experience standpoint, previous work with the City of College Station as their special event supervisor. I've spoken with the City of College Station Police Department because what they had was an off-duty officer process and policy, and basically they had certain standards set up based on the attendance of an event and also the nature of the event. For example, at all concerts and festivals, there was some type of police presence required. So the police department did set that, but I've got personal experience from that, and I've asked for their policy and standards, just so that we might compare, and yes, so that Chief, myself, and Mayor plan to discuss that type, if there's certain parks events and programs, what might kick in, you know, the thought to have police presence there.
Well, while I got you standing, I know this weekend we've got a Grand Slam, which is 100+ teams, and then an All-Star, a few other teams, and will there be police out there? I've been asked that from parents that are traveling from around the state, and they've read the news and this and that, but
There will be.
okay, thank you.
And I think, you may be seated,
Thank you.
Alderman Sistrunk had a great point on that. Board, I think, you know, the mayor and the police chief, you know, can give us a recommendation as to how we should proceed. So, you know, mayor should be here Tuesday night and can answer those questions, so.
And I'd like to say too, I don't want to make light of the fact that there was a
Yes, ma'am.
shooting. We recognize that, and it grieves us all that it happened. But it was an isolated incident. It's the first complaint I think we've ever had at that particular basketball court that rose to an awareness of the police or the Parks Department. So we need to be mindful of who's gonna be there, be sure that they're safe, but we also need to not overreact. And it's easy when there are kids involved. And
Yeah, and bullets flew over my children,
Yeah.
and I've got a son that's still traumatized, and
And
he's
my-
not associating, he's associating part with what he heard and saw, and so I would say my argument against that is we're very, very lucky no one got hurt more than they did, and it's not a knee-jerk reaction, but when you've gone through that and you're still, not coach the team, you know, you're still going through that, I think this opportunity, for nothing more than just to have an officer
I don't disagree.
at an ingress egress is the smallest step we could take.
We
you know, so.
need to be mindful, have
Yeah.
a presence, but that's a day-to-day operations issue right now.
We're now down to engineering. Any questions about the single item on the engineering? If not, we'll proceed on to finance administration. There are a total of 5 items on the finance administration. Any questions? Finance administration on page 4 of the proposed agenda. If not, fire department on page 5, 1 item.
Vice Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I was hoping
Gentleman
that
from 5. Yes,
the
sir.
fire chief will be here today.
We can get him here, do you want him here?
Well, no, I mean,
Yes,
I'm
sir,
sure
we
if
can
he's
get
not,
him.
he's got prior obligations
Yes,
or
sir.
something. But, in trying to get a handle on the fire protection, how fire protection is going to be handled in our proposed new, the area we're looking at annexing. And I've had a conversation with the fire chief, but do we as a board know, where we stand in moving from class protection, public protection class 4 to public protection class 3 in our fire insurance rating, and how that will be impacted if we follow through and we're granted the annexation per the map and the things that we're I mean, do we know that?
Gentleman from Fire, let me respond to your question this way. The vice mayor would be best off if he would yield to the fire chief on that question. He'll be here Tuesday night. Gentlemen, do you prefer all the department heads being here in the future for the work session? Because it's certainly they work for the mayor and the board and the taxpayers. You know, you mentioned that he should have been here in so many words, but he'll be here Tuesday night. We can get him here right now. He should be. We'll get him right here right now if you want to make.
Just for information purposes, I think the Mississippi State Rating Bureau should give us some kind of idea where we stand on that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I mean, I think we need to throw that in the package, throw that in the mix, but we're going to have room for people Tuesday night. So
Gentlemen, Ms. Harden, will you call the fire chief? I'm gonna let him get here and answer that question. Will you have him come up here per the request of the gentleman?
I think that
He's on his way. You get him up here.
Certainly.
Just get him up here. If he's not in town, the next person in charge needs to come up. So, while Ms. Harden is doing that, she's getting the chief. He'll be here before we leave. And, we're down to human resources. We have, you can take your time, look at all these items, and Mr. Ashford, hopefully he's still here somewhere.
He is, he's right outside the store with the insurance.
Okay, just in case they have some questions.
If I could, if he could step in for just a second.
Mr. Ashford will be in shortly, and the chief of fire will be here momentarily.
Chief Perkins, back on board
Yes, sir.
business. What is our what is the tax increment financing agreement with Starkville Crossing? What are we? Is that sales and property tax, or is that
Attorney.
It is, it's a pledge of 100% of ad valorem and 100% of sales tax.
10 years?
15 years.
15 years.
Or if they're paid off quicker,
Okay.
And we have no responsibility past the bonds.
correct. In other words, it's not, doesn't count against the city's indebtedness. It's not a pledge of full faith and credit. It's just based on those incremental gains in the taxes.
Okay. Now, is this is something new that's about to come into being, or is this something, we're in the middle of this now? Or do we reapprove it each year? Is that something, or
No, this is just the next step in the process. This is pre-approved, and so it's already way down the tracks. If it was a football game, we're in the early fourth quarter. And so it's just the next procedural document to execute.
I see. Vice Mayor Perkins, I didn't mean to.
No, you're
about
fine.
having-
No, I'm seasoned with this. I mean, it's no problem. Whatever you want, this is the board's meeting. I mean,
Well, maybe-
Attorney, we're fine. That's what we're here for. We got plenty of time. I'm good. I'm enjoying it. I love this position. Thank y'all for allowing me to be in it. Thank you.
The fire chief will be here within 5 minutes.
Very good. And Mr. Astor is needed if he would step
He
in.
did, I didn't see him and he didn't.
Well, will you
answer his
call
phone.
him back? Somebody had a question. They need to stay here. Thank you. I'm just the servant here for the city. That's all I do.
Move on to parks while we're waiting.
Ma'am?
Move on to
Oh,
parks
yeah,
while we're
yes,
waiting.
we'll move on to parks. Yes, let's go into parks. There are 4 items on the parks. Attorney, while we're at parks, would you, just elaborate where's that item on the parks there about would you talk about item number 3, Attorney?
Be happy
While
to.
we're waiting on the department heads. Just
Sure.
to give the board some background, and the attorney got some information you want to share with you.
And I'd like Gary Logan to fill in if I leave any gaps out there. But so the city would like to participate in resurfacing the tennis courts at Starkville High. understand there's some events coming down the tracks, that it's imperative that the courts get resurfaced. And so we looked about how the best way to do that. And there was a 1997 agreement between the city and Starkville High and the Tennis Association to build and construct and maintain those courts. That agreement expired in 2017, and so the parties have all been just tracking under a gentleman's agreement, chipping in a third up to this point. So Gary did a good job of trying to make that 1997 agreement get updated and applied this time around. He sent it to the Tennis Association, and they marked it up pretty significantly. So in the interest of time, I gave him the alternative path of making a donation under statute 21-1949, which does allow a municipality to make a donation to a school district for public services purposes, such as a public tennis court that the public's free to play on as long as the Starkville High School tennis team isn't playing on it. But the issue there is, well, you're making a donation with no strings attached. And so to kind of cover our bases and give you guys two options as how you may want to proceed, is we also worked on a new contract yesterday in which I totally overhauled the 1997 contract. And I've got those on the table now. I sent those to the school district attorney, and he approved that version of the contract. So you guys could go the donation route, or you could go the contract route, and I just wanted to tee that up there for your discussion and let Gary chime in on things that I'm sure I've missed.
Mr. Attorney, before Mr. Logan get up, give the board the option that you think would be the best of the two and why.
Well,
That's what I finna do. Thank you.
legally, it would be best to enter into a new contract. And my thought would be that once you guys approve it, the school board will approve it, and then it would be up to the Tennis Association to approve it to get it resurfaced. So I would recommend us going forward with the contract, and if you guys want to do that, we can just substitute this agenda item with the contract. But
Sounds good. Is this a partial payment to do that, or is this the total cost to resurface those? Partial payment?
it would be, no, it would be the city's full cost,
Okay.
but the one-third cost of
One-third cost of- to get the job
$9,200.
done.
That's right.
All right.
After hearing the attorney, is everyone clear? Is there any objection to proceeding with the contract per the attorney's recommendation? Gentlemen, from one you want to proceed with the contract?
Yes, sir.
Clerk, would you substitute that on the agenda for Tuesday night, the contract? Attorney, give her the wording on that, please, for the agenda.
I'm gonna give her the contract if she can say consideration of with the title, Vice Mayor.
Okay. Does anyone have an objection to that being on the consent agenda for Tuesday night? Put that on the consent agenda, no objection, attorney.
I'm sorry.
Put
Vice
that on
Mayor.
the consent agenda, no
Yes, sir.
objection.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ashford has now arrived. Ms. Harden is taking care of that. Mr. Ashford, will you just come up here, please? There's some questions for you, please, sir.
I have a quick question with all these things that we're putting in the consent or human resources. These are all existing positions or temporary backfill positions where we've had people who will be out on planned absences, that sort of thing. No new positions.
No new positions.
Okay, Mr. Ashford, just for the board, and I'm just doing my job. If we were just all in the future, you're doing a great job. Thank you. If you just put on your cover sheet, new positions, the more information you give this board, the better we'll be. We all like superior knowledge base. That's all I want to say. Great job. Thank you for your great work.
And in his defense, he typically does do that. I just like to hear him say it to me as
Yeah.
well.
It's
Okay,
on the
sir.
cover sheet?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Great job. Thank you, Ms. Ashford. Just stay up for a few more minutes in case somebody has another question.
Okay, yes, sir.
Okay, we're now down to the,
Full part.
okay, number 4 in parks. Any question on number 4 in parks? Oh, you got a question, gentlemen?
No.
Okay. Nothing else on parks. We're down to the police department under J, under 6.
Well,
Yes, sir.
these, I guess I don't police, these 2 signs, I mean, are they, the kind that just blink up the flashing numbers, or are they actually in force, or have you heard anything, city attorney?
What you talking about?
J2, consideration to apply for adjustments grant for 2 radar speed limit signs.
I don't know exactly what they're gonna look like.
Yeah, we'll talk about Tuesday. You can leave it on consent.
Okay, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We'll make sure we discuss it.
Okay, lead off consent. Okay, down to the utility department L, there are items of 1 through 5, utilities.
You know, they always good.
Okay, no course, the utilities, and the fire chief, according to the clerk, should be here arriving momentarily, probably next 120 seconds. Any other, questions about insurance? We got about 3 minutes, 4 minutes to talk about that until the fire chief gets here. Any questions, any further questions about the insurance or or any other matter until the fire chief?
What are we requesting our insurance brokers to come back with?
Oh, now, I remembered a minute ago, you're expecting a lot. When they come back, I think they will come back with, plan designs and the things that they were gonna take into account. We're doing some more research on pharmaceuticals and whether there might be some opportunities by using somebody other than Blue Cross. I think the other was looking at the deductibles, and was there a third thing? Possibly a financial component from the employees. I
I
think
was
the
interested
third-
to find out that we're the only one of their cities that has an enhanced, not enhanced, it has a base and a, what do we call it, tier?
Basin
Enhanced, plan, and that most of our employees are in the base plan, and the majority of people in the enhanced plan are retirees. What they indicate.
And that is something, I would absolutely grandfather in anybody who's currently getting their insurance through the city, but it is something we have a responsibility to think about for, employees who've not retired and gotten into that situation just yet. And Mr. Watkins was right in talking about how, that's a benefit that's now available in the market that wasn't really readily available in the market in the past, so.
Miss Harden, will you just check the fire chief, see where he is? Call him and see. And,
If he's gonna be a few minutes.
Vice Mayor,
Well, since
we
he's-
need to adjourn, that's fine,
No, no,
I didn't mean to delay
no,
us
he's
to
on
the
his
point where
way.
that.
He's on his way. He should be here. If he's not here in
We
a
now-
couple minutes, we'll go.
And- And what I was thinking was, if he's gonna be a few more minutes, then maybe you and I can stay, or you can stay and talk with him,
What-
and then
Let's do-
he
let's
can
go ahead
make a
and- let's
better
move to
report
adjourn.
for
Okay,
Tuesday
we'll do
night.
that.
Okay, hold on a minute. Let's see what she says. Where is he?
He is crossing Highway 12. He was at lunch. and
Okay, well, if he's that far away, any other questions about the agenda items? If not, the fire chief will be here shortly, and I'll mention to the mayor in the future about whether she desires the president of all the department heads in light of today's inquiry. So with that being said, this, June 14, 2018 work session of the mayor and the board of aldermen stand adjourned.
Very good.
Thank you.